everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Growth Talks, a podcast and a video series from our lovable learning technology heroes here at Growth Engineer. In each episode, we interview an industry visionary and training titan in an attempt to pick their brain for as many nuggets of gold as possible. This week is no exception. I spoke with Daniel Ball, CEO and founder of Early Careers Company and Foundation. Early Careers Foundations is getting ready to launch Growth Engineering's learning technology in an attempt to change the narrative around social mobility. I had a great chat with Dan, who told us more about the company and the work they're doing around early careers, so I hope you will enjoy our riveting conversation. Grab your popcorn and let's go. Hello, Dan. Lovely to get together and have this chat about early careers. So I thought we'd kick off things by asking a little bit about you and tell us your background and how did you end up founding Early Careers Company?
Yeah, absolutely. We're happy to be here. Thank you for having me. My background's not enormously interesting, honestly. So I'm from North London. I was born in Southeast Asia, lived there for the first years of my life, then was schooled at my local state school in North London. My career actually started when I was 18. So I accepted an offer to go off and study neuroscience at university. Was always going to go down quite an academic route. But then took a gap year, and because I'd spent quite a lot of time abroad, didn't really want to travel. So I took the opportunity to get a job. I got a job at a really small startup. There were like 5 or 6 people tops in the business at the time. In the end, I stayed there. I was ended up becoming one of the senior team. We built that business up to 100 staff or thereabouts over 6 years. So I was there from 18 to 24 in the summer when I was 24. Mm-hmm. I then left that company during the first lockdown. There were a load of fantastic things about it, but realized that it wasn't kind of aligned with my values or vision for what I wanted my life to be, or the kind of contribution I wanted to make to business, the commercial world, or society, or anything really. So decided to leave. Took 6 months off. I normally tell people that I spent the time planning the company and launching my foundation and so on, but actually I spent most of it eating cake and playing Mario Kart and going for long walks with the dog. And then I launched the Early Careers Company and the Early Careers Foundation in January of last year. So just under 14 months ago.
January 2021 then,
January 2021. Yeah, absolutely. 4th of January we launched. I'd spent a little bit of time planning, but hadn't done any work. I actually had some restrictions for my last company, so I couldn't launch. But it was quite neat, started at the start of the year and obviously it went really well. So I suppose you work with us where you know what we do, but we have a private business that provides kind of advisory and strategic work around early careers infrastructure. So helping companies diversify and build early careers programs, kind of run value proposition exercises. We build assessment processes, psych profile their teams and so on. And then we have a team that delivers early talent. So recruiting effectively, except that we're not set up as a recruitment company. So there's no commission or, none of the negative things that come with recruitment, basically no commission, no cold calling, no KPIs, metrics, targets, and so on. And the charity is a social mobility charity that is funded by the business.
Yeah, so you've got a really interesting mix between a business and a charity. And can you tell us a little bit more about how you set up that vision between the two?
Absolutely. It all started. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do next, and I'll be honest. When I left my last company, I really wasn't in a fantastic frame of mind, and didn't really think that I wanted to stay in this industry. So I was in and around this kind of early careers graduate space before, and didn't think I wanted to stay in it. But I think I realized after a bit of time off and then doing a little bit of consulting work with a contact of mine that actually I really liked the area I was in. And so I began thinking about what I could do and how I could make, my potential business or organization of some sort more focused on delivering kind of the right results for clients and making sure that we really did a good job, basically. And I then started thinking about social purpose, like how can we give back? I've always, had that kind of mentality. I think I kind of lost it a bit at my last company, but I've always been pretty left wing. I've always voted Labour and sat on charity boards and so on. Like it's never been just about making money for me. And I did quite a lot of stuff, of that ilk in the time I joined the charity boards of a couple of charities. I've become kind of an advisor to the Labour Party around early careers and and youth employment and so on. And so I wanted to think about kind of what we could do to give back. And of course, when you're looking at early careers, social mobility is quite a natural kind of a way to improve the world around us. It's something where, we in the early career space have an enormous ability to influence and advance social mobility through the work that we do. Getting someone a fantastic first job does a huge amount to change the trajectory of their lives. So initially I was thinking about, my team mentoring young people from low-income families and whether we could look to kind of have some training content. And then basically those ideas spiraled and got to the point where it was way too much for a CSR team or for just a social purpose. And so I thought, why not set up two organizations, one where we have an independent charity that's entirely, so we don't accept any donations that have been offered them by a few corporates. So it's entirely funded and managed by the business. Mm-hmm. And we can have a charity that effectively executes on the company's vision. I mean, the rationale behind it, my mum phrased this better than me. The rationale behind it was that there's nothing wrong with building a business and being successful and wanting to improve the world. I mean, the phrasing she used was that enjoying the best things that the world has to offer doesn't mean you can't try and improve it, which is kind of the kind of motto we live by. Like, I'm enormously passionate about building fantastic careers for my team here. We have a nice office. I'm taking my entire global team across London and Mumbai and soon to be New York to Mexico for a week on holiday and so on. But, we can do all of those things and we can enjoy some of the kind of trappings that success allows us to have, while simultaneously, leaving a permanent mark on the world as the world that we live in.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that there's a lot of passion about moving in the right direction. So I think I heard what you're trying to solve in terms of early careers, that sort of social mobility in young people. What do you think is what are the kind of the alarms you see in the current job market, especially for young people?
It's a difficult one to answer. I mean, I think the challenge is that people, even with the best of intentions, often look at one part of the problem. So it's like, this is a helpful prop. So I've got this reed diffuser sitting in my office here that's English lavender, right? Now, if this produced like far too sour a scent, we'd say, okay, we need something more sweet in there. If it was too lavender scented, to dilute it more. And this is kind of what tends to happen. It's like the status quo isn't well set up to allow organizations to effectively diversify or advance social mobility. And people tinker with one element of the issue. So one really common one, and what my business exists in part to solve, is that people may edit interview processes and requirements and move to blind CVs and so on and so forth, but they're not. And this is where, of course, growth engineering comes in for lots of your clients and certainly long-term, a lot of ours as well, is that it's not just about fixing that one problem. So it's fantastic hiring more people from low-income families, more people from state schools, more people from, BAME backgrounds, more women, whatever it is. But actually, unless you build the right infrastructure to support them and manage them and guide them, then actually all you're doing is bringing them to jobs that don't fit the background they're from. Hiring isn't the only solution. Like, the solution to diversity isn't to hire more from Black heritage backgrounds or more women exclusively. Of course, that's an enormous part of it, and it's massively important to drive those initiatives and do as much as we can to give opportunities to those from a diverse range of gender or socioeconomic or ethnic backgrounds. But we also need to look at what they do after joining. Do we have the right infrastructure in place to help them succeed?
Yeah. So if I get you right, you were thinking of this 360 view of organizations and how they foster those inclusions. Yeah.
The major alarms for me are lots of adaptations made to hiring and core characteristics and capability and competency frameworks and so on to enable companies to hire a more diverse range of people with very little attention paid or changes made to the actual structure of the programs into which these young people are moving.
Got it. Great. And is there any parts of technology that has helped you to kind of advance this area, or are you more from a process and consulting structure approach?
A bit of both. I mean, we work with a very close partner of ours, which is like a digital assessment platform, which enables us to run virtual assessment centers. This in turn, there are a load of additional benefits to this, but it enables basically interview processes, certainly assessment centers, to be a bit less intimidating. If you take 10 people attend, or 20 people, let's say, attending an assessment day in a glass tower in Canary Wharf, not everyone is going to have the same level of kind of not everyone is going to be comfortable in that situation to the same extent. And so running these things virtually, actually, I believe advances diversity. Similarly, I mean, growth engineering, we haven't obviously utilized this, as you know, yet for this purpose, but certainly something we'll do over time is working quite closely with the GE team on kind of building the training and learning and development structures required. I think we'll need to, I don't know the phrase, remember to go back to basics, which I think is what's forgotten a lot. It's easy enough to go, well, people come in and they're trained on kind of how our industry works right up to kind of the core of their job. But actually sometimes to go further back, if it's a consulting firm, or let's say it's an information services business serving the private equity space, you can't just start with the business model. You've also got to explain how PE works and so on. So I think technology from a learning development standpoint, hence the successful growth of growth engineering, as well as from an assessment standpoint, is quite important. I wouldn't necessarily say it's important in alleviating the specific issues I've highlighted. I just think that it's the way the world's going, right? So everything is becoming more technologically driven. And so anything that we're looking to do in society or business or the commercial world needs to have an element of technology, ingrained, if that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. And how do you think it's also could improve this diversity issue that you were talking about in terms of people being able to leverage technology better? Is that how do you make it more?
Well, I think there's quite a lot of that going on. I mean, I think it makes job application processes more accessible, which is helpful for people from a range of socioeconomic backgrounds. It enables, CVs to be automatically altered to be, blind CVs. In some cases, I think one huge thing is effectiveness, right? Like if you're able to interview 10 times the number of people, you can then interview more people from a wider range of backgrounds. And you need to, you don't only look at what is, has historically been described by certain companies as the top 10% or top 20% of applicants. So, technology, of course, enables organizations to screen people, screen more people faster and build a slicker and easier to manage process. And so, the contribution of technology is theoretically, it should make things faster and better. And both of those things generally, I would say, are more positive than damaging to diverse and inclusive hiring.
Yeah. And I think what we've spoken a lot about is from the lens of the company. What about the lens of the individual? How do you think technology could leverage them better in the future? How do you think that they could? What kind of vision tips would you give to the young people?
Interesting question. Well, I think one quite big thing, of course, is that technology is very accessible, right? So, take two people. One's grown up a council estate. One's grown up they're in a detached house in Ascot and gone to Eton and Oxford. So these people obviously have very different, very different, predetermined levels of knowledge. Like, let's say both of them are going to strategy consulting. The guy from Ascot is likely to have a far deeper understanding of the commercial world, a bit more of a commercial head, have a greater level of confidence. Of course, technology enables people to learn at their own pace, A, and B, learn based on their own, learn based on their own kind of their own accord. People can learn when they want and how they want and to the extent that they want. Yeah. And that's one really big thing, like classroom-based learning, which is in effect for me what, technology is replacing. Technology isn't replacing on-the-job training, right? Like in my business, technology can't replace someone sitting in a data analysis session helping a company develop a competency framework. Like there's no way that we could do that. I mean, I suppose we could take elements of it, but really some stuff needs to be actually, done to be learned about. I think when it comes to more standard L&D in inverted commas, I think that the technology, of course, enables people to go over things in very simple terms. If these two young people both have training sessions on the organizations or industry that this consulting firm has got a job at, supplies and provides services to, they can go over and over and over and over. And so people don't necessarily need to deal with the embarrassment of I don't get this or being slow at work. They can put the extra time in to make up the shortfall that their background has kind of created. The same for me. I got into a job at 18. I had no idea at all how business worked, like none whatsoever. But I just worked really hard and picked it up by the time I was 19. I knew everything I needed to, for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about the inclusivity of learning online, because again, it's all about what you know and how you can build on it.
Yeah, and how you can repeat it, right? I think that's a really key thing. That's what's missed quite a lot of the time, is that there is if you can do something 5 times, you don't have to be as good at it going into it, because you can keep doing it till you get it. And I think that's the big thing, that online learning enables the most driven to succeed, not those with the highest prior level of knowledge or information. I think that's really important. I think being in a situation where you get people in the business and those who do well are the most talented and the hardest working is just where we need to be.
Yeah.
The big problem, the reason I've set up a nationwide, what will be this year, a 7-figure income national social mobility foundation. The reason I've set that up, and the reason I'm investing millions of pounds in it over the next few years, is because we don't live in a society where background or effort determines success. They are, of course, contributing factors. They don't determine it. And they should. And I think online learning helps us get kind of closer to that vision of what we want society to be like.
Yeah, I think it levels the playing field a lot more than it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Giving everyone same kind of same kind of resources, and then it's up to you what you do about it.
If people are struggling to pick up or learn certain things, those with real drive and real motivation can go away, learn about the context, take the courses over and over again until they've got it. That's what I did. I learned all about the stock market at like 18. And by the time I'd done it, I learned about it because I was driven and motivated to do it. I've got people in my organization who are working 60 or 70-hour weeks to advance their careers and better themselves. And ultimately, effort should be the principal determinant of success. And I think, along with talent, but that's made by your employers, i.e. who to hire in the first place. So yeah, I think online learning, as you say, can really level the playing field there.
Amazing. So obviously we mentioned you are going to launch with Growth Engineering in the nearby future for the foundational stuff. And what are you kind of things that you're looking really forward to pushing on the Growth Engineering platform? What are things that I think we've mentioned a few different ideas there, but I'd love to hear more.
It's our learning program. So our foundation, for any people listening, our foundation is a social mobility charity. We basically have 3 key initiatives, all designed to help advance social mobility through, in effect, helping young people get a great first job. The foundation has 3 key initiatives. The first one is a learning program. So one of the huge barriers of success to those from low-income families or backgrounds or areas is the fact that the commercial world is so obscure and so hidden. Like asking a 14-year-old to grow up on a council estate and went to his local state school what a private equity fund versus a hedge fund does is impossible for them to answer. So the idea, for most people, the idea behind the foundation is that we help expose the reality and mechanics of the commercial world to people from this range of backgrounds. And we're using growth engineering as our tool. So we're working with corporate partners, everyone from British Airways to Bentley to Fidelity and De Beers and Henkel and loads of big businesses are signed up to partner with us. These organizations are creating a kind of working with us, I should say, to create kind of an interactive, gamified learning program. So the idea is to progress through different modules based on the kind of branch of the commercial world tree. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know about that. I'm not sure I do.
We're called growth talk
behind me. But people can kind of take their learning and take their learning in a direction that is interesting for them. So they could learn Introduction to Financial Services by HSBC, then what is investment banking by JP Morgan, then M&A by Deutsche Bank, and so on and so forth.
Great.
So Growth Engineering are hosting and managing. They built us a product, got everything created for us, and we're going to be launching that in the start of Q4 this year, so October.
Yeah, so really interesting that you're going to use our products, obviously, for this kind of e-learning mentality. But if you wanted to offer some of the other businesses a tip on how to get started on e-learning, what would that be?
Mainly that the platform is pretty simple. It's not simple in terms of the UX or UI, but it's very easy to use from the back end. The team at Growth Engineering are fantastic and respond to things pretty quickly, and that means that you can get something live in no time. I think the thing we probably underestimated was the complexity of creating engaging content. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it right. I'll be transparent. We initially planned to launch this in Q2, and actually I had to take another 6 months because, especially given that we're dealing with young people, especially those from a range of some challenging backgrounds, it's important for us to ensure that the young people, important that we start with a bang. We've got to make sure that the young people that come onto our program see something that's all singing, all dancing. And so I would urge people not to underestimate it. If you want to build a 100 module L&D program, that is not something as a founder or CEO you can do in your spare time. You need a person or people to do this. It's a complicated endeavor. And I think for a lot of organizations considering working in GE, I mean, I'd certainly recommend it. They've been fantastic for us. You'll already have a lot of that content there, but it takes, a 15-minute module takes several hours to make. So if you want 100 hours of content, you've got to have like 1,000 hours of time. So important not to underestimate the complexity of building it, but don't sort of overestimate the complexity of setting it up.
Or getting started, I think.
Or getting started. Yeah, getting started is easy. Just pay. Pay and then log in. It's quite easy.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you there, Dan. I think especially for your company and the foundation, it's so important to get the content right, because the people will talk about it, and they will talk about it more than potentially corporate learning, and that's obviously the key to getting more traction in that field. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you, Dan. I think you're doing an amazing job of getting your passion out there and moving the world into a better place.
Well, and thank you for all of your help. We couldn't do it without you guys.
That's it, folks. Thank you for watching or listening to Growth Talks. It has been a podcast by Growth Engineering. To find more information about growth engineering, please head over to www.growthengineering.co.uk for our supporting resources, tip sheets, guidebooks, and much more material. And if you'd like to find out more about early careers or speak to Dan himself, please visit him on LinkedIn or reach out to him through dan@earlycareers.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon for our next episode.